So, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday night. We are going to talk about facing retirement challenges, but beforehand, I want to talk about a little bit about who we are. We are Consumer Credit Counseling Services of Northern Illinois. I say we're because we're a small non-for-profit organization. I think our staff is comprised of 14 people max, including me. And we have two offices, one in Woodstock and one in Elgin. Now, because our name does say Northern Illinois and our offices are in Northern Illinois, I don't want to spook anybody out. We do offer services all throughout the Illinois area. And most of our workshops, or not most of our workshops, most of our counseling sessions are done online via Zoom. So you could easily do them from the comfort of your own home while making dinner for the family, so on and so on. Everything's done online now. That's about the only upside from COVID is we've learned the power of doing things online and the ability to do so. So I don't want to scare anybody from the Northern Illinois, but we are Consumer Credit Counseling Services. So what are some of the counseling services? Again, all of our counseling services come completely free. Anytime you meet with a counselor, there's no cost to you at all. And there's no obligation. What I mean by no obligation is that you're going to have, for example, a debt management service. That's something that we do offer in house. We do offer ways for you to consolidate your debt. We'll put you in a budget. We'll make a budget according to your lifestyle. We'll look at all your debt and we'll put a plan in place for you. However, again, it's no obligation. If you don't want to go forward with it, you don't have to. You went through the counseling session. You have the tools for yourself. You can do it yourself. If you do want to get involved in debt management or enroll in that program, there is a small fee of $50, and that's about the only fee that we have. It's the enrolling fee, and then it's like a monthly servicing fee. And that's the only thing that we're charging for. Also, bankruptcy. These two services are the only ones that we charge for. One, because the debt management is we work with outside debtors, and that carries a lot, as well as the services we provide. And also, bankruptcy is mandated by the court. So, since those two services are kind of like out of our control, that's why there's some charges there. But we also offer counseling services for credit reports. If you are unsure what a credit report looks like, or if you've never seen a credit report, or if you have seen a credit report and you just don't know what it says, then we offer counseling services on that too. And we could help you understand it, help you understand what's on your credit report, and also help you go about disputing it if you notice something on your credit report that's not yours. Financial counseling, again, the best thing about our counseling services is that we build a budget for you, and we build a budget for you according to your lifestyle, depending on your household size, depending if you have one income, two incomes, multiple incomes. All of that we take into consideration. We offer no judgment during our counseling services too. Our counselors are excellent at doing that because we understand economic realities do happen. So we're not gonna sit here and judge you. Instead, we're gonna sit here and help you build a budget to help you improve your financial situation. Because that's always a goal. A goal is always to improve your financial situation, your current financial situation. Housing counseling services. We also provide when it comes to housing, we provide pre-purchase counseling services, which will help you embark on that journey to purchase a house, help you structure your budget for purchasing a house because it's a lot more than just looking at houses and purchasing them. It's building your budget around it, making sure your budget can sustain a house payment, and also building your budget to start a savings fund because there are also closing costs that may be involved with your purchasing, may not. There's also a lot of estate grants that are available that comes with that housing counseling. And then last but not least, students. We do a lot of student loan education. We talk about the options about the student loan, different options of student loans. And also, it's great if you bring your student with and you guys apply for FAFSA and you guys are ready to accept some loans, then we'll go through those options with you. Again, these are non-for-profit. These are no charging counseling services, so they'll be completely free for you guys. Financial literacy. That's what I do. My name is Josue Fernandez. I am a financial literacy educator for Consumer Credit Counseling Services of Northern Illinois. And you're probably looking at me like, what does this young guy have to know about finances? A little bit of background about myself. I have an MBA in finance, graduated from DePaul University. And aside of that, I worked in the finance industry for a little bit over 10 years now. Started with TCF Bank at a teller line about when it was TCF and then when they were in Jules, open Monday through Sunday. I don't know if you guys remember that, but now they're Huntington and I work with Huntington. I work on the corporate side. That's my day job. I do work for consumer credit counseling services as a part-time, and now I'm here teaching about finances because from the teller line up until my job right now, I've seen all sorts of different lifestyles and different social classes, and I've seen different way people manage their money. And I'm here to just educate people on that because there's good ways and there's bad ways to manage your money, especially when it comes to budgeting. And that's gonna be like the foundation of it all that we're talking about today. It's all part of the plan. And like I said, budgeting. That's it's all surrounded budgeting, and that's kind of like the foundation. So if you hear me hammering budget a little bit throughout this presentation, that's why, because everybody should have a budget, because that's the foundation of a stable financial status. And if you're improving your financial status, you should also be improving your budget along. But what we're going to talk about today is retirement challenges, and a lot of that comes with expenses, which is, as you can see, a part of their budget. So a little bit about a road to the financial plan. You have to set long-term and short-term goals. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about being realistic about these goals too. A little bit example of what I like to do is I get all the time like, oh, I want to save for a vehicle. Okay, how long or how soon do you want to purchase this vehicle? I want to purchase it in 2 months. Okay, well then that just creates a little bit of a time crunch. You have 2 months to not only save for a down payment, but if you want to save for to buy a vehicle on its own as a whole without taking a loan, then you have 2 months to save up a lot of money. So we have to be realistic when we're setting goals and that time horizon, okay? Keep it reasonable, keep it within reason. So let's get right into it. Closing in on retirement. You have to understand your net worth, and you have to understand that growth, whether it's you're close to retirement or whether you're barely starting to prepare for retirement. You have to understand your net worth, and you have to understand how to make that grow as well, because that's what's gonna help you in the long run. That's what's gonna be there for you when you retire. You know, pre and post retirement budgets. That's also huge because again, you have to have a budget when you're pre retirement because that's what you're gonna be using to contribute, and you're gonna be contributing to your retirement. And after you retire, your budget is gonna change drastically because now you don't have an income where you're contributing. Now you're just gonna have an income where it's coming from what you've contributed to. So those budgets are going to change drastically, and you have to be aware of that. Like I said, everything surrounding financial stability is based on a budget. And then last but not least, we're going to talk a little bit about reverse mortgages, which is a cool little item that I learned while working for the agency that I was not aware about before, but they are an amazing tool for anybody out there. Okay, quick note on boundaries. This is super, 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 super important because who we are at Consumer Credit Counseling Services, we're credit counselors. You know, we're here to help you establish a budget. We're here to help you manage your expenses, start on saving strategies because not all saving strategies work for everybody. And we also here to to help you manage your debt. What I like to say is we help you manage your money better. That way you could manage it to a point where you have enough to hire a financial advisor. Because what do is they enhance your wealth. Once you have a stable budget and you're contributing to an account for retirement, that's when they come in because they could help manage your portfolio. They'll give you investment advice to grow that retirement account, and they'll manage your state. Because at the end of the day, all of that money that you're contributing, whether it's to a retirement account, whether it's to a house, or anything that involves assets, you're gonna need somebody to manage your state. Especially if you grow it correctly, those assets should grow to a point where they kind of lose control. And you want to lose control of your assets because that's just a good thing. You're just gonna need somebody to help you manage that. What does your financial health look like? This is very, very important because you kind of have to look in the mirror and you have to be serious and you have to be kind of like tough love on yourself. You know, you have to understand what's really going on in your finances. And you have to understand your spending habits because that's also important. That's an important part of your finances is how you're spending your money, you know? Because if you're just spending your money without keeping track of it or without a financial plan, it could lead to poor financial health, which could also lead to stress. It could also lead to difficulty working, and it could also lead to poor physical health. How does that lead to poor physical health? If you don't have a budget where you're stable enough to like have This is the best example I have. I like to give this example a lot because if you have a budget that does not include like grocery shopping or even a food budget within your budget, then you're going to be forced to one, eat out, which one is not good for your budget and it's not healthy for you, and two, you could easily lose track of that. You lose track of what you're spending on your food, and then you just let yourself go as well as your finances. So they go hand in hand together. This is really really important, um, to keep in track of your financial health and its correlation with your actual health. You know. So going back to retirement, we talked about net worth and knowing, understanding how to grow that net worth. So what is net worth? Net worth is a snapshot of your financial health, which is exactly what that sounds like. A net worth is just listing your assets and your liabilities and seeing whether your assets are greater than your liabilities or vice versa. Now, I don't want to spook anybody because it's okay to have negative net worth where your liabilities are bigger than your assets, because sometimes that happens when you start off. When you purchase a house is a very big purchase and a large amount of money. So when that happens, your liabilities are going to be greater than your assets unless you pay the house off in full. Now, again, that's nothing to worry about because that's a great start. However, with a stable budget and with a solid plan, whenever you're done paying that house off, could be sooner than later, your your financial health or your net worth is going to be positive. So it'll flip from being a negative net worth to a positive net worth, and that's how you grow it. Again, it's all about that net worth and growing that net worth, and you'll grow it with a plan. So, kind of what we talked about: increases when debt is reduced. Always, always, always want to take care of your debt. You don't want to be in debt, especially bad debt, especially consumer debt. You definitely want to get rid of that as soon as you can. It also increases when your assets grow. So, like I said, when you're paying off your residence, that's your asset, and the more you pay off of it, the more your equity in it rises, and that's just assets increasing for you. And then, like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. You should not be concerned if your negative net worth is, or if your net worth is negative right now, because it's supposed to grow, and it'll take some time. Mortgages, we're talking about being a loan from 15 to 30 years. That's a long time. So it will grow. Don't get spooked by a negative net worth because it will grow. The bottom line is like that's what you have. That's your net worth is literally what you have, and that's the bottom line. You are where you are. Again, this is what I tell you guys. You have to take a look into your financial health. You have to know exactly where you are and be realistic. Assess your situation. Give yourself a little bit of tough love. Is my spending habit how they should be? Am I spending my funds correctly? Can I be using them towards something else that is better than what I'm spending on? You have to be tough on that, because especially if you want to prepare for retirement, excuse me, if you want to prepare for retirement, you want to start putting some funds aside. And the only way you put some funds aside is if you budget it correctly and you change your spending habits. Once you have a contribution in your budget, that just takes care of itself, and you're able to spend whatever you have left on your own. So again, if with a stable budget, you could be realistic about the situation and start contributing to your retirement. Avoid denial. Never look at your finances and be like, oh my God, they're bad, but they're better than I thought. That's the worst thing you could do, because if your finances are bad, they're bad. And it's okay for them to be bad. That's why we're here to help. And we're here to help at no cost to you. So it is good to understand that if finances are bad, they could be bad, but you could always improve that with a solid budget and a solid plan. That's what the goals is. You have to set goals and you have to set a plan. A little example I like to give on the goals whenever you have a budget is you'll be able to reach those goals. For example, if your goal, just a simple example, setting an emergency savings account to $1,000. Once you reach those $1,000 savings account, you feel a sense of accomplishment. And once you feel that sense of accomplishment, then you'll be motivated to continue to do more with your budget. And once you do more, that's when you could start saving for something else, such as retirement. So always, 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 it's all based on your budget, and it should be a good budget. The ultimate goal of financial planning is retirement, to protect and preserve your net worth, the bottom line, as long as you can. Because again, at the end of the day, your net worth is what's going to carry you through retirement. If you have assets by the time you retire and these assets are greater than your liabilities, then you're in a great position to retire debt free. Not only debt free, but you're gonna have a lot to live off of until the end of your life. Basically, so if the more assets you have by the time you retire, the more you're gonna have to live off of. Whether it's houses, whether it's properties, whether it's I don't want to say automotives because they don't carry that much value as assets, but there are other vehicles out there that do carry value of assets, such as boats, airplanes, and all of that could be established or all of that could be reached with proper budgeting. So always important. Always remember with a good budget, you could reach your goals and you could improve your financial situation. That's always the word. That's always the plan is improve your financial situation. How do you start preparing for retirement? Your initial steps. What is your current net worth? Remember, be very realistic and be very brutal with yourself. Take a look at all of your expenses or take a look at all your debt. Take a look at everything that you have. See how either your net worth is negative or your net worth is positive and see how you could either improve that or get it out the negative. Do you have a budget? Do you have a budget that includes savings and a retirement plan? That's important. Again, the key to financial freedom or financial stability is a solid budget, especially a budget that includes savings plan and a savings or a retirement plan. Because if you're contributing to both of those things, then you're just piling up money for yourself to use the long run. This is huge right here. Are you aware of your spending habits? Because a budget will not work if you don't change your spending habits. Especially, we like to say, is there too much month at the end of your money? If there's too much month at the end of your money, it's because your spending habits are incorrect. So definitely have to change that. And your attitude towards money. I like this line because the correlation it has with Mr. Krabs. If you guys are familiar with SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs loves his money, and he will do anything to either keep his money and gain more money. So always it's important too. What's your attitude towards your money? Are you the kind of person that says, I'm just gonna spend it because my paycheck's coming in 2 days? Or are you the person that says, you know what? Maybe I could wait till my paycheck comes in 2 days and then I'll go ahead and spend that, and spend on what I want to spend at that point. Always important. What's your attitude towards money? That's very important for you to decide and for you to look at yourself. Again, be realistic, be tough on yourself, because that's just gonna help you in the long run. Net worth. We're gonna talk about this a little bit because, again, it's a little bit easy to understand, but as well, it might not be clear to everybody. So, net worth is a relationship between your assets, what you own, what's yours, and liabilities, what you owe. Positive net worth, like I've talked about it before, is when the value of your assets is greater than your debt, and then the vice versa. Negative net worth is when the debt exceeds your value of your assets. Again, not to be worried, because anybody could have a negative net worth. It's about having a plan to get out of the negative net worth. And once your plan is executed, this was it. See, English is my second language. So I used to have trouble saying executed. I don't know how you say it before, but it was wrong. So once your plan is executed, then your negative net worth will turn into positive net worth. So don't panic if your net worth is negative. My net worth is currently negative right now. I recently bought a house not too long ago. And boys, my net worth is really negative right now. But I'm not panicking because I have a good budget in hand. Thanks to my counselors at Consumer Counseling Services of Northern Illinois, because they helped me build a budget as well once I started working with them, which I love. I love our counselors. They're great at that. Assets. I'm not gonna go through this whole list, but it's basically, again, what you own. Everything that's in your bank account, you own it. That's yours. So that's an asset. Any property, any real property, whether it's home, whether it's land. Again, there's some autos here, there's some vehicles, but you got to think about it. Not just autos, because a lot of autos, unless they're like collectible items, they lose value. That's why there's a market value here, because there's also other vehicles that may have some market value. So you have to take that into consideration. I like these household goods because, again, if something was to go sour and you lose all your funds, you could literally sell your household goods. You could literally sell your furniture on sites like OfferUp and stuff. So they hold value. They hold some value. Therefore, they're an asset, because you could at one point exchange those goods for funds. So those are assets. Investments and retirement funds. These are also assets, because this is something that you owe. This is something that you've contributed money to. So that's all your money. Like I said, if you have a retirement plan or you have contribution plans on your budget, then you're just building a pile of money up for yourself. Um, and then liabilities. Again, I'm not gonna go through all of these because you can see them on here, but liabilities is what you owe. Anything that you owe money on, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's your credit cards, whether it's auto loans. If you bought a boat and you owe on your boat, that's also a liability. If you owe any money to anybody, even the IRS, that's definitely a big liability because the IRS will come for you. So always keep in mind your liabilities are what you owe, whether it's to a bank or whether it's to a lender or whether it's to the government. If you owe it, it's a liability. Again, what's your net worth calculation? Is your assets. Take your assets minus your total liabilities. It's okay if your net worth is negative, as long as you have a stable and solid plan to make that positive. So always be realistic and consistent in valuing your assets, because if you make your asset, if you overprice your assets or if you overcalculate your assets, then you're just cheating yourself out of a quicker way out of your liabilities. And you're cheating yourself out of a quicker way out of a negative net worth. So be mindful, be realistic, and be hard on yourself. Take all of the debt that you have and just put it all in there. Changing financial circumstances may require changing a budget. That's always true, whether it's for the good or whether it's for good or for bad. You have to keep in mind that any financial circumstances that change require a budget update. What does that mean? Like creating a retirement budget. Think about extras like travel and medical. When you retire, you won't be working anymore, so you could do things like travel with your free time, but you're also going to need medical, because who knows where the public insurance is going to be at that point, and also you won't have insurance from your employer anymore. So always important to keep that in mind, because when you retire, your financial status changes drastically. Your budget reflects your priorities. That's definitely huge, because if you budget correctly, your priorities are going to be aligned with that budget, which becomes when you're setting up your budget, you have to think about it. What are your priorities? Is it paying off debt? Is it savings? Is it creating an emergency fund? A lot of Americans don't have an emergency fund. But once you have a solid budget and you reach that emergency fund goal, then again, it grants a sense of accomplishment, and it's just going to help you in the long run. Because once you accomplish that one thing, then you can go ahead and accomplish many more things with your budget. I'm not going to keep going through all of this, because these are things that will make you change your budget. And increasing your income will definitely make you change your budget to improve it. Maybe you'll give yourself more spending money out of your budget because your income increased. So keep that in mind. Same thing with expenses, because once you finish paying off your credit card debt, then your expenses decrease. So then you have more money either to save or to throw for retirement. Once you don't have, this is why I always tell people about credit card debt, because if you don't have any credit card debt, you don't have to worry about sending them a payment monthly, and you can contribute that money towards your retirement account or towards your savings account. Opportunity cost is basically what you're changing off, kind of like how I said it right there. You either have a monthly payment to your credit card, or you don't have a monthly payment to your credit card and you have all of those funds in your budget available for you to use. And then keep focus on protecting your net worth. With a solid budget, you're going to protect your net worth, and you're not only going to make it positive net worth, but it's just going to help you in the long run, because a positive net worth will just make it better for retirement. Okay, creating a budget for retirement. This is super important, because how it says right there, it relieves stress about money. Once you have a budget, everything else works out for you. So all of your expenses will be paid for. You don't have to worry about making rent or mortgage every month, because it's in your budget. So you have set money aside from your income to take care of your expenses, take care of your utilities. You won't have to worry about your lights cutting off on you, because you already have those funds set aside from your income to pay these expenses. So every time you have a budget created, it definitely reduces stress, because you don't have to worry about your financials in that. And again, if you with a solid budget, you'll have your money to spend, because after you take your expenses and your savings and all of that out of your budget, you should have some funds left over, and that's your spending money. Because nobody wants to work just to pay bills. Nobody wants to work just to save money. You also want to work to spend your money, and you will have spending money after you take care of all your expenses, you know? That's what it says here. You got all your financial records. Listing expenses is a great way to do it. Make sure you include all of your expenses when you're building your budget. Don't cheat any expense out. Don't cheat. Starbucks, it's a big expense. I have it in my budget because I like Starbucks. And it's okay to like Starbucks because if you can afford it, by all means, you know? But as long as you include it in your budget and you set some funds aside of it. Modify changes and estimate your retirement income. That's very difficult for a lot of people to do. Like, how do you estimate retirement income? Just got to think about what you already have working for you for retirement and also where you want to be at in retirement. Again, work with goals. Once you set a goal for your retirement and you start working towards it, let's say you reach that goal early. Let's say you reach that goal at the age of 50. Then you have 10 more years, at least 10 more years to keep building or making that retirement fund even greater than what it already is. Always, always, always set goals for you because that just helps you in the long run. And once you reach those goals, it makes things easier. These are expenses. These are things that should be included in your budget. I don't want to go into what's a fixed, variable, and periodic expense because they're kind of self-explanatory. So I'm just gonna kind of speed by them. Fixed expenses, something that happens every month, whether it's the same or it's not the same, but it's fixed. It happens every month. So you should have something budgeted to that. Variable expenses, something that changes month by month, kind of like grocery shopping. I like to have a budget within my budget for that. So for example, grocery shopping for a single guy, I give myself out of each pay period, I give myself $70. That's in my budget, $70 for grocery shopping. So what happens each pay period, I might not use those $70. I might use less than $70 or I might use more. However, if I use less, then it just carries on to the next pay period. The next pay period, I add another $70. And now I have $140 there if I didn't use anything on the first pay period. Or if I did, then I have whatever is left over on top of those $70. And you keep going and you keep going month in, month out, then you have kind of like an account for those variable expenses, such as grocery shopping. And whenever you have things that come up, so for example, I'll host a barbecue. That might be more expensive than my regular grocery shopping list. So then I could use those extra funds that I didn't use in previous pay periods, and now I'm able to pay for those extra groceries, for those extra meat, for that extra chips, for those extra sodas. You know, I always like using an example of the Super Bowl parties. If you have a grocery budget within your budget, then all of those extra funds that are not used could be saved up for a Super Bowl party. And then because Super Bowl parties tend to get expensive on the grocery side. So that's always a good way to deal with periodic or variable expenses. And periodic expenses is what they sound like. They happen every so often. They might not happen every month, but they happen every so often. A good example on that is Christmas gifts or tax payments. You know, Christmas gifts, you buy them once a year on Christmas, but you usually know how much you spend on Christmas gifts. I like to give myself a budget on what to spend on Christmas gifts. So what you do is, for example, if you have a budget of spending $500 on Christmas gifts, you have 12 months, maybe 11, but maybe 12 months if you want to do the last month as well. But you have 12 months to build up to those $500 that you're willing to spend on Christmas gifts. So what happens is, instead of coming up with those $500 out of your income in the month of December, you're coming out with little amounts each month. And in the month of December, you just have to come up with that premeditated amount that adds up to $500. And then it won't be the $500 coming out of your income at that one point. That's how you deal with periodic expenses. You break them up into months leading up to that, which is the easiest way to do it. I love spreading my periodic expenses because it makes it so much easier. I know another one is the annual car registration, which is like $160, but you divide 160 by 12, and that's almost a little bit over 10, not quite 20. I don't have my calculator with me, but regardless, you don't have to come up with 160 that month that is due. You just come up with the amount that you have budgeted for. This is kind of what it should look like, how a budget should look like. You should have your income minus your expenses, all of the expenses, whether it's debt, whether it's utilities, whether it's rent, all of the expenses should be listed there. And then that should give you whatever is left. If it's a shortage, that means your budget is incorrect. That means you either have to get another job, that better paying job, or another job to fit that lifestyle that you want. If it's a surplus, then that means you have all of that money to do what you want with, which you could either spend, save, contribute to retirement. So always, always, always important to do that. Again, if after you do your income and you line up your expenses and you have a negative here, a negative balance, maybe it's time to either get a better paying job or maybe a second job. I currently have 2 jobs, and it's okay to have 2 jobs sometimes. That's just to maintain the lifestyle that you have and to maintain the budget to maintain that lifestyle. So it's okay if your expenses are less than your income, just understand that you have to adjust either your expenses or your income to make that positive. You don't want to have a negative number from when you're subtracting your expense from your income, because that's just setting you up for failure. Home equity conversion mortgage, which is a reverse mortgage. I spoke about it in the beginning of the presentation. What is this? It's what it sounds like. So you have a mortgage right now. When by the time you retire, we hope that you finish paying that mortgage off. And then if you do finish paying that mortgage off, then you could easily get payments from a financial institution from that mortgage, and you could use that for your retirement. We understand that once you get older, it's kind of hard for you to work, And if you have this asset, this great asset, which is your residence, then you could live off that asset and you could get a reverse mortgage and you could receive payments on that asset until it's your time to go. To put it in simpler terms. But regardless, you have an income when you retire after this is done. Or if there's no other plan, there's no retirement, then as long as you have your asset, which is your home, and it's paid off, then you could use that for income. The pros and cons of reverse mortgages, peace of mind. You stay in your home, you age in place, you stay somewhere where you've paid for 30 years for, you've lived here for 30 years, you finished paying it off, you love this place, you get to stay in it, and you get to live there with a little bit of income, you liquefy some of your assets. Like I said, you could also have some other assets that you could liquefy, but this time you liquefy this because, again, how much more longer are you going to be living in that house? And then it provides a lot of financial freedom and flexibility because you have other assets that you could also work on, or that you could also use instead of selling those off, and you could use the reverse mortgage. Some cons, equity in your home will decline, eroding your net worth. Not only that, but that equity, you only have a certain amount, whatever your house is valued at. So keep that in mind. Your debt will continue to increase, and so at the end of your lifespan, somebody will either have to take care of that debt or just cure it, or either sell off the residence. So just keep that in mind. And then even though they are financed, there are some fees up front. They might be costly, but if that's your only option, that might be one of the best options, So what are the next steps when you preparing for retirement? Like, do you need guidance navigating your retirement budget effectively? Because if you do, we're here to help, and we're here to help at no cost to you. We're a non-for-profit organization, and we won't charge you for a counseling session on how to create a budget for your retirement, and how to create an effective budget is most important. It's always important to set your retirement goals, even if it's something as little as, I want to retire with $500,000. That's great. At least that's a goal, and you're going to be working towards that. And once you reach that goal, a sense of accomplishment will hopefully make you contribute to a higher budget. I spoke about determining your net worth. I spoke about creating your budget, which both are important. You can't create a budget without knowing your net worth. And then know your kryptonite. This is huge right here, because know where you're spending your money. Know what's taking your money. See, for me, my kryptonite was Uber Eats, and I would Uber Eats so much before I had a budget. Now that I have a budget, I have a small amount allotted to Uber Eats because I still like it. Sometimes I still use Uber Eats, but I knew that was my kryptonite, and I knew that I had to change the way I was spending on that. So it's super, super important to know your kryptonite. Where is your money going to that you are most unhappy about? Our counselors are available for you at no cost. And then here, we're coming towards the end of our workshop. So some keys to financial security. again, A is develop a budget mentality. Once you develop a budget mentality, everything will take care of itself. Your expenses are going to be taken care of. You're going to have some funds that are going towards savings, and you're going to have some spending money as well. You have to develop a budget mentality. That way, that just leads to financial stability. Establish a credit record. I like this. I like the second part about this because use credit cards sparingly. Establishing a credit record is important. Sometimes you have to have a credit card to establish a good credit record. There's nothing wrong with having a credit card. Just have to use it sparingly. Know that credit cards could be a slippery slope and they could easily get out of control quickly. So if you are in that situation, know how to seek out help. Know how to contact organizations like ours, and then we could help you get back into control of that because credit cards could easily get out of control and you have to control them, not let them control you. And then last but not least, understand economic realities do happen. Economic realities hit. Nobody thought there was going to be a pandemic ever. I'm 31 years old and I never thought I'd seen a church close down. Like that was insane to me. So pandemics happen apparently, and that's an economic reality because a lot of people lost their jobs from that, and a lot of people lost their incomes from that. However, with a stable budget, and if you do have to get a job that has a lower income, then guess what? You could get out of that economic reality with a stable budget and a solid plan. So that's all you need to do if you do come across an economic reality. A little bit of a reminder of who we are again. Consumer Credit Counseling Services of Northern Illinois. Just because you're not either Woodstock or Elgin doesn't mean we can't help you. We offer counseling services through Zoom, so you could definitely contact us via Zoom or actually via our email. That's right here. And it's literally just this info@illinoisccs.org. And then we could set up a counseling session for you that you could do from the comfort of your own home. Like I said, while making dinner for the family. These are a couple of sponsors that make this workshop possible. Thank you to them. And last but not least, these are some services available for seniors in our community. Some of these are for our center in Elgin, just because we're there. Like this one's in Elgin, some in Aurora. However, if you are in any other area from where these are offered, please feel free to give us a call. Again, we help anybody in the Illinois area, not just Northern Illinois. We could help you no matter what part of Illinois you're in. And then last but not least, this is our literally workshop staff, and this is me right here. So we are gonna have more workshops with the Galena Library. One more in September, 2 more in October, and then hopefully more in the future. And you're gonna see one of these faces. If not just me, maybe some other faces, but regardless, we're here for any help that you may need and any questions that you may have. And that's it. That's our presentation. Thank you so much for coming by tonight.